So first of all, the first point, like the fact that you see China everywhere, I think it's really interesting because this is the sort of perception that we all have, right? All this, everywhere you turn, you see like a Chinese, construction site or something like that. But of course, China has been a big lender in the continent, so they have spent a lot of money building Africa's infrastructure. But if we look at investment particularly, China remains the 5th largest investor. So it's not the largest in terms of FDI stock. So we have, I think UK is the first, according to the latest data. UK, France, Netherlands, US. I don't remember the order in particular, but China is only the 5th, really. So the reason why we see China is so evident is just because its presence has grown so much. So we sort of give it for granted that there's an American company or that there is a French company operating somewhere in Africa, but the Chinese ones are new and they strike us. In terms of whether that has helped, I think Chinese have had substantial investment specifically in certain countries in Africa. So it's quite concentrated actually, but in special economic zones or industrial zones, for example. So that has helped a lot industrializing the continent. So they've built not only the infrastructure, but they've also brought in firms from China to actually populate these zones and kickstart economic activity there. Of course, these zones are open to all sorts of investors, but there's a lot of Chinese investors who are interested. And this is interestingly not necessarily geared at exporting from Africa, but really at serving the African market, where there's still a huge need for a lot of goods that are produced and that are, a little cheaper than what you can get from outside, basically.
Interesting. And you mentioned this before that like Western, I mean, however you want to kind of like define it, investments are more in the service industry. Like, can you maybe put some numbers to it? Like, or like some, let's make this a little bit more granular, just that we understand this a little bit better.
Of course. So let me look for some data. I had, sort of worked on this. Earlier last year was in November, actually. Every year we have the Africa Industrialization Day. And so normally, we sort of look into some data for that. Let me see if I can find it. But basically, what I try to do is to look country by country, the main investors in Africa, and see how the investment is divided. And sure. Again, this is FDI data, not lending data, right? So
yes, but no portfolio flows. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, or give us a little bit like a breakdown of the trends, because I do think this is quite interesting and might lead to like loads of kind of different opportunity set.
So I've looked into the different national statistics offices from the main investors. I found disaggregated data for UK, France, and US, not for the Netherlands, and then for China. So for the out of the 5 biggest investors in Africa, I have data for the 4 largest one. So UK, the main investment was in mining and quarrying, the main sector, 48%. Financial services, 40%, and then another 12%, right? So we're talking about like an almost equal split between mining, natural resources, and then financial services in Africa. The French FDI was a bit more diversified. Mining is around 40%, financial services around 15%, and then a few of the other sectors. US, similar, 40% for mining, but also interestingly, 15% in manufacturing. And then China, we see construction 35%, mining 21%, manufacturing 14%. So similar to the US actually, but also financial intermediation, leasing and commercial services, and so on and so forth. So it just looks more diversified. It has a higher prominence of the construction sector. So presence of construction companies building Africa's real estate, but also infrastructure, of course. And then manufacturing as a very important one, similar to the US actually in this case.